Last time on Zodiac Academy, The Awakening. The girls went to class with Professor Orion. You remember him, the hot preppy guy. They learned very little, and they were bullied. They petted a unicorn, who turned out to be a naked dude. Tory went to fire magic class, where she was the most powerful, but she still got bullied somehow. A vampire claimed Tory as his property, and I'm sure someone finds that sexy.
We're back with more Zodiac Academy, and I was thinking about the bingo card and how this book would be a potential candidate for confusing plot or no plot in sight, except for the plot is not confusing at all. The plot is extremely straightforward, and it doesn't even work for no plot in sight, because while the plot is ostensibly, the surface level plot is these girls have to go to magical school to earn their kingdom. The actual plot, the plot that is very clearly on the page that we can all see right before our eyes and we can all know, is these girls have to interact with hot boys who are mean to them. That's the actual plot. And this book, like we talked about, very driven towards that one goal. We can fault this book for a lot of things, but lacking a clear goal is not one of them. Lightlark, this is not. This is everything, every side thing, every magic moment that happens, every creature that we encounter is steering them towards the goal. Interact with hot boys who are mean. We are back with Darcy. I was also thinking about how people have talked about how Darcy and Tory have the same voice, and somehow they do. Even though they are written by two different people who have noticeable to me different skill levels with prose, I still can't tell these girls apart. They don't, one is supposed to be the badass and one is supposed to be the shy one, but they don't behave like that. They both behave like the badass most of the time. So I get into a chapter a little ways and I forget who the fuck I'm reading from, because they do. They have the same voice. Do I have characters all have the same voice on here? Oh, we have paper thin characters. I feel pretty safe giving this paper thin characters. Also, how do we feel about unhinged bullies? I feel like maybe it's time to give unhinged bullies, because one of them has just claimed one of the girls as his permanent, vampiric victim, and that's a little beyond normal bullying, I feel like. So let's go ahead and give it unhinged bullies. We're not really in danger of a bingo from that spot either, although with two more, I would die for you person I just met, or confusing plot or no plot in sight, which we already established, we're probably not actually going to get that bingo square, because this book is so simple. The premise of this book could easily be written on a napkin in one sentence. We might get damaging SA tropes though, and in fact, no, we already have. It's not quite SA a lot of the time, although these guys are doing a lot of sniffing them and petting their hair, so it's bordering on. But we definitely have the trope of, if you're being abused by someone who is hot, then it's not really abuse, and you should be grateful. And so that is definitely going right there in damaging SA tropes. We might be able to get messy world building or no world building in sight, because this book is so focused on just get to the hot boys and the bullying, the world building is just throw it away. Just why are there people who can transform into winged unicorns? Fuck, don't care. Gosh, I keep going back to the bingo card. Should I also give it horny? Because everyone is just oh my gosh, the boys are so hot. You're so lucky that he's being mean to you because he's so hot. I feel like I might need to give this horny as well. Finally, let's get back to reading, shall we? We're making decent time through this book. It is not complex, so I don't need to spend a lot of time thinking deep thoughts about any part of this book. We just skip Darcy's class because the classes don't matter very clearly. We're going to a magical school, but the classes don't matter. I kind of felt the same way when I watched Wednesday, the show Wednesday. You got to see one class, and I was we're in a magical school. Why am I not getting to see the cool magical classes? The real magic was the hot boys that we got abused by along the way. She has her first session with Professor Orion tonight, so we can kick that ship off. Both of these girls are getting bitten by vampires. She's worried that when she goes to Orion, he's gonna bite her. And I'm there's a romance trope for everybody, and clearly both of these gals who wrote this book enjoy the biting, kink, I don't know if it's quite strong enough to call it a kink, but they're both very into that. Like, the girls have got to both be bitten by vampires. She does see that again on Facebook. There's a post talking about how Darcy and Tory don't know how to do basic, like, coercion defense. Basically telling the whole school that they can use their coercion magic on the girls. And she's like, oh, maybe I'll be safer in Orion's office because then, like, I feel like I've got a target on my back here at the school. Except for Orion has already multiple times used coercion magic on you, so I don't know what you think you're safe from, because it's not him. Oh, I forgot also that Darcy is supposed to be clumsy. She has that very standard romance girl trait of is clumsy. Should have really had that on here. Instead of she don't know she's beautiful, I really need to have is clumsy. But is clumsy has really gone out of fashion too, so it's kind of, again, you're showing your age, Caroline and Suzanne, that you are using is clumsy as a trait for one of your female characters, but she trips because she's just so clumsy. Also, she gets another message from Falling Star, who is the... What is that show? I can't remember the name of it because I didn't watch it. And it's like, I think it's based off a series of books where, like, there's a mysterious person sending messages throughout the school and, like, outing people. Why can't I remember the name of the show?
And who am I? That's one secret I'll never tell.
There's a mysterious person who's posting messages and they're named Falling Star, and they sent her a message that says, "Shadows draw closer to you, Darcy. Stay in the light." She realizes that she's probably being followed through the dark woods. It's very dark. There are minimal lanterns. And of course, it's one of the hot guys, probably in beast form. It's Darius. And he just, like, plows into her and it's like, oh, oops, sorry, didn't see you. But once again, we have a moment where we can learn about unnecessary words in our sentences that can help clean up our sentences and make them stronger. He held out a hand with a deep chuckle. I took it rather reluctantly. We don't need the rather. Did you take it reluctantly or didn't you? Getting rid of words like that kind of equivocate, like they weaken what is happening in the scene. When you see a word like that, think to yourself, did my character or didn't they? There's only a few cases, I feel, at least in my own writing, where when I do that, I go, no, I need them to do like a little bit of that. Like, maybe she really did only feel slightly afraid in this specific situation, but every other situation where I have her feeling slightly afraid, she actually just feels afraid. Think about places where we can get rid of those words that equivocate and give us a stronger sentence. She decides that there's still something out in the woods, and she needs this asshole to escort her. Of course, these girls are afraid and bold in turns whenever they need to be, so he is convinced to escort her out, and she says, I just wanted to be planted outside of these woods and move on with my life. What? You want to be planted outside of these woods and move on. A much simpler and more meaningful sentence would be, I just wanted to be out of these woods. Then Seth shows up, just so she has multiple people to hassle her. We also have the infantilization of the main characters, which doesn't surprise me with so many just like big masculine men around, but I'm not scared, I insisted, but I sounded more like a child than an adult. And then we get to the bullying, because every single one of these scenes is just a roundabout way to get the girls bullied. So now the guys are just messing with her, of course. Like, why? I would rather walk alone in the dark than ask either of these guys for an escort, but, you know, needs must for the plot of this book. And so they're using coercion to be like, kiss my foot. At least he hasn't asked her to kiss other parts of his body yet. Not only would I never ask one of these guys to escort me out, but the second I saw the other guy appear out of the woods, I would have yeeted myself into the dark forest and hoped whatever creature I saw out there was feeling hungry. Oh, we've come to my first, I think, typo. We have an incorrect punctuation in one. It's supposed to be an apostrophe, and it's something else. It's like the little arrow thing. Anyway, it's just something that can happen occasionally. Not a big deal. For a self-published book, this is very clean. So, like, this long without a noticeable typo, that's pretty good. I mean, the punctuation and the grammar just in general are pretty bad, but like a typo, like just something that gets past you, just a slip of the finger, we have not had many of, so that's pretty impressive. So this is where she could have a little bit of fun with it. Oops, I'm running out of time in the memory card, so let me finish up this thought. The guys tell her to run, and she just takes off. And I'm like, they did not give you details, so this is where you can have fun with it. They didn't tell you how long to run, they didn't tell you how fast to run, they didn't tell you where to run. They just said run. You could jog for 2 seconds and stop if you wanted to. Like, listen to the orders and fuck with them. In the LARP that I played, there used to be this ability that bards had to command you to do something, and within reason. So a lot of times people would make you jog up and down the hill in armor, or sing them a song, or do a dance or something, but you had to be specific when you gave the order. So one guy came up to me and he used the spell on me and he said, beg for mercy. Did not tell me how long. So I dropped to my knee and said, forgive me, like 1 time, and then I stood back up and stabbed him, because he did not specify. And like there was nothing he could do about it except have a good chuckle, because yeah, he didn't tell me how long to beg for mercy, and that was on him. Anyway, I need to go empty my memory card, but she should really be like using this to her advantage way more. Abrupt change of scenery. I realized that it is just absolutely gorgeous outside, and so we're gonna film outside for the rest of the chapter. And there's birdies and froggies, and the chickens are right over here, so you're gonna hear chicken noises, and hopefully you're okay with that. Also, there's road noises, that's not as pleasant, but I hope you like the sounds of nature, because that's what's happening. I'm pretty sure that anybody would tell you that this is a terrible idea and background noises are just like so bad for your videos, but I don't care. It's really nice out. We're having the first like proper spring days of the entire year, so we're taking advantage of it. And we are in my bower. We're gonna read. Anyway, our girl Darcy was running, I guess. So she thinks she's gotten away, and then she runs into two more of the jackass hot guys, who one of them is a vampire, I guess, and they're just gonna be assholes. Cause what else would they do? Like, Variety, who is she? We don't know her. Everyone's just an asshole. I can tell you right now, just like reading through these scenarios, any of my characters in my books would go through one maximum of these situations where they're surrounded by a bunch of abusive guys and thinking to themselves how screwed they are before they would, like, really legitimately do just about anything to get out of this situation. Like, these girls are just like, well, we have a nice dorm room and we're learning magic, so I guess it's okay that we are in these situations that literally make us fear for our lives on a regular basis. No attempt will be made to deal with this issue. Like, I get that they can't bring it up to the authorities because the authorities clearly do not care, but like, just leave. Like, even if it ends up that you can't, at least try. Here's the thing, in a magical school like this, are magical pranks as like cool and hilarious as we seem to think they would be? So the guys decide to team up on her. All 4 of them are here now, and they decide to use all 4 of their elements to bully her, because why not? And so essentially, using all 4 of their elements, they just cover her in mud and then hard in the mud, so she's just like stuck there as like a mud person. And then they take a picture and they're laughing hysterically, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, evil bully behavior. But like, this is a magical school where, like, you could easily just do this to somebody for funsies. So is it as funny? I guess maybe bullies never get tired of laughing about guys getting shoved in the toilet in our world, so maybe not. Maybe this is always funny. It just seems like people would be like, oh, ho-hum, they've turned another person into a mud person again. Yeah, har, hilarious. I also love this line, "Arg," I shouted in fury. And then, because obviously these girls have to be the most tortured, the boys leave, and she is just stomping around covered in mud, in dried mud, and then she encounters 2 girls who immediately go, oh, cool, and use coercion on her to make her be embarrassing. Also, she decides that the best call is to continue on to her tutoring session after what just happened. Because, like I said, these girls are just like, well, that's super unfortunate that, like, really terrible, unconscionable things keep happening to me, but you know what, it's fine because I have a class to get to. Like, she's upset because she has to look like this in front of her hot professor, not upset because this happened to her. But she goes to his office, and he has a really, really nice office, very fancy. I'm curious if anyone else gets bullied, or like everyone else just has enough magic to defend themselves. Like, do these guys, who obviously very clearly just like harassing people, any given opportunity. Like, they definitely had practiced that mud thing before. They even had a name for it. They were like, let's use the power of 4, and they all knew what that meant. So, like, do they just pick on these girls and post pictures of these girls on Facebook, or are they doing this to everyone in the school? I mean, obviously in this book, the only ones that matter are the main characters, but I'm curious, like, do you think they also bully other people and put embarrassing photos of them up on fairy social media, or are we sticking to only very targetedly abusing these girls? Also, I should mention that this is one of my least favorite, like, types of story. I just do not like misery porn. I don't like that drawn out, dragged out, the character is tortured again and again and again and again with no reprieve and no, like, chance at a break. That, it's just not for me. Some people love that. Some people thrive on that. It's like listening to sad songs when you're sad, but that's not how my brain works. Like, I find it just exhausting. Not cathartic to read at all, which is unfortunate that that's what this book seems like it's just gonna be. It's just torture all the time. And I don't mean to be victim blaming, but they are characters in a book, and characters in a book, you do usually expect them to at least try some things instead of just being like, well, I guess this is happening again. At least my torturers are hot. He's already got a nickname for her. She's the one with blue hair, apparently. He calls her Blue.
Everybody's so creative.
This is the point where she decides she's done. This, like, he doesn't immediately start tutoring her. He, like, goes and helps himself to a couple of drinks, and she's like, right, screw this. I marched toward the door. Done with this day and every bastard I'd encountered during it. This was your final straw? Ma'am. 4 powerful hot dudes teamed up to torture me, and I still went to my tutoring session for some reason. But when I got there, the guy was acting dismissive, and that was just too much. I will not be dismissed by this hot guy that I like. This is where I draw the line. I really wish that we would have some more thoughts from her about, like, why she's here. So obviously she's having this problem with coercion. We see her having this problem. She could be thinking, I've just been horribly bullied, and I don't want to go to this tutoring session. But this tutoring session is going to allow me to not be bullied in this way. I will be able to resist the coercion. So I need to go to this tutoring session. We get none of that. She just keeps going. She just heads on to the tutoring session feeling embarrassed that she's covered in mud. Like, give us some reason that she goes and she keeps pushing through. And when she gets there, then he's ignoring her, and she's like, well, fuck, this wasn't worth it because he's not going to teach me the one thing that I needed to know to stop this from happening. But no, it's just like, she gets tortured, she gets harassed, she keeps going to the tutoring session for some reason. Oh no, the hot teacher is ignoring her. Now she's mad and she's gonna leave. It's all right there, too. It's right at this author's fingertips, and she didn't use any of it. She basically set herself up for no reason. So the teacher, before she can leave, he uses his magic to clean her off, and then he goes up to her and grabs her arm, and she says, he snatched my arm, and in one single heartbeat, I knew what he was going to do. What is he going to do? Is he going to kiss you? Attack you? You've already been attacked a lot today. You gotta give me, you gotta help me out a little bit here. What are you expecting? Because then she slaps him, and I don't know what she was expecting, but she slapped him about it. Oh, bite. Okay, she was worried he was going to bite her. Okay. And then he does bite her, because of course he does. You know, he pins her up against the door with his hot bod. It'd be nice to not be able to predict every single second of this book, but I guess when you're working with a trope like this, being predictable is part of the allure. So he warns her that everything in this school is about power, and if she doesn't start gaining power, which I don't know how she's supposed to if guys keep drinking all of her magic, because they're vampires, then she's never going to pass, and she's going to fail out of the academy. And I'm like, yeah, fail out. Like, fail out now. Find a way to fail out now before midterms. Leave. This place is awful. I don't care if you have treasures waiting for you. Sell more motorcycles. Consider getting an actual job. Fucking leave. I don't care if I had to live on the street. I'm leaving this place where magical people torture me on the daily. So this guy is the flippant, dismissive archetype. He's sarcastic, he's snarky, he takes what he wants. So, you know, if that's your type, we got one of those here for you. I don't even personally mind this type. I can actually enjoy this type if there was any, like, depth to this story. If there was any chance that he would act in a way that is not completely predictable or asshole-ish. Like, I like this type with a possibility for them being a good person. But no, he's just a jackass. And I'm sure later, like, we'll find out that he has a tortured past or something, and that will mean we're supposed to forgive him for all of the absolutely horrific things that he does, but I will not, because you do not in Julian world get a free pass for being like the worst person because you had a sad life. Like, listen, I have trauma related to my past, and I do not use and cannot use that trauma as an excuse to be a jackass to other people. She wonders to herself, why are the hot ones always jerks? Well, in this school, it's wall-to-wall hotties and wall-to-wall jerks. So, like, here, that seems to be completely the norm. I don't think there's a nice person in sight, except for that one guy, like, the Latino guy. But, like, he is that archetype of the minority who's just there to be sweet and friendly and lovable. Also, now he's reading her palm, and she is, like, just already soaking her underwear. Like, she is so into it. Anytime any of these hot guys, like, touch one of these girls, they're, like, immediately just slathering. So somehow using palmistry, he determines that her power levels are 7, 8, 9, and 10, and a 7 is high. So of course she's like super, super powerful. What a pity that no one will actually teach her how to use her powers. I mean, she could probably learn. If she went and found those people who think that her and her sister are cool and deserve to rule, she could probably ask them, hey, how about you guys teach me how to use my powers? And they totally would, and in seconds you'll be kicking the asses of these jerk boys, but you don't want to do that, because those people are a little bit cringe. It's like Layla, who refuses to understand when she's got something, like she's supposed to be this manipulative genius, but instead she's like, just kills everyone and that's her solution to everything. And same with this girl. I mean, she's not supposed to be a manipulative genius, but if she thought about things for 10 seconds, she could find a way to gain this power that this guy is like, you need power, so like, go get it. So what if you have to interact with some people who you don't love interacting with? You're already having to interact with a bunch of dudes who torture you. Could you know that Fairyland is indeed full of inbreeding? Her parents were unusual in that they were not cousins or whatever. She does not, however, point out that he's basically saying incest is good, actually. And she's just like, oh, is it bad that my parents weren't in the same family? And he's like, yeah, because it makes their magic weaker. And I'm like, yeah, but it also probably means that you don't have a whole host of genetic flaws because, you know, inbreeding. Also, their mother was a harpy and their father was a hydra. So I'm gonna guess that in, maybe not in this book, but in a later book, the girls find out that they have like cool monster forms. That's just a guess, because everybody else seems to be able to transform into something cool except for the vampires, but they have the teeth. He does point out that nepotism bad. It's just a pity that he doesn't have a leg to stand on because everybody here is being jackasses. But he's like, he points out that the four hot bully guys, have been training their entire lives to take the throne, and then these two girls just show up, and because they have the right bloodlines, they automatically get to be queens. And like, yeah, that is annoying, but it's really hard for me to take your side, my guy, because you are doing nothing but, like, torture people. Rather than, I don't know, negotiating, trying to figure something out. You could ask these girls if they actually want to rule. For starters, you could be like, hey, would you rather just have like some treasure from your family's vault and then abdicate power to these four dudes? You would? Cool. But no, we will not ask questions. We will not follow anything logical. Also, we want to be really lazy about world building. So he's like, do you have any idea what dangerous times we're living in? And she's like, well, if you tell me, and he says, tell you, even if I relayed the entire history of Solaria to you, do you really think that would be enough? So basically, that's the author being very lazy and being like, there's probably some kind of undefined danger coming in later books. Maybe we figured it out, maybe we haven't. But like, having a character actually explain anything to our main character, that sounds like way too much work. So he's just going to say it's too hard, he can't do it, he doesn't have enough time, and so we will set up that there's danger coming in the future. But we're not actually going to put any work into it now. He does mention that one of the things that's happening is people are ending up dead, including her birth parents. And it's not really hinted at whether it's murder or something else. Maybe it's DiGiorno, I don't know. He's, of course, being as vague as possible. Because all of these books, like their characters to be vague. Same thing in Lightlark or in A Night and Its Moon. A character would ask a question and then the other character would be like, vague. So he signs her up for another class called Order of Enhancement, which I guess she has to take with the werewolves, which will put her in proximity to Seth, because again, everything in this book is designed to put these girls in the path of the hot asshole boys. And she almost tells Orion that Seth, like, sexually assaulted her, but she doesn't, because he just, like, glares at her. Then he says something about dealing with the nymph population, and she asks nymphs, and of course he says, another race, don't worry about it. And then, of course, because she's a main character, she's hit with, like, a spike of determination, and she's like, Professor, I know you don't think much of me, but let me prove myself. He says that as a Libra, he's a sucker for fairness. You know the drill. Comment below. Is that true of Libras, supposedly? This is the second typo, the same kind of typo, where it's supposed to be an apostrophe, and instead it's the little arrow. Actually, there's two of them. So I don't know what's going on, if there was some sort of find and replace error or something wrong with this person's keyboard, but we've got we're, but instead of the apostrophe, there's a little arrow, and I'll in the next line. Same thing. Not sure what's going on with that or why no one caught it. And that's it for the chapter. Apparently that's it for the tutoring session. He taught her nothing, obviously. He looked at her lifeline. He told her that she was he looked at her palm. He told her that she was super duper powerful, which we already knew. He signed her up for a different class involving the werewolves, and he was vague at her. And that's fine. Maybe she'll care about it in the next chapter, but that's the end of the chapter. He just, shuts the door in her face. So, yeah. And now I'm gonna go inside. I have some critique to do for someone, and then I might actually write my own book a little bit for a while. But hopefully you didn't mind being outside with me for the second half of that chapter. And I'll see you again with the next chapter, indoors or outdoors. I don't know. We'll see what it is. You hear the chickens. Hi, Henrietta. Now that I'm looking at her, she has no words. No words. But I'm sure she thinks that this book is also rubbish. Don't you, Hen? Yeah. You think this book is garbage, right? She puffed up her feathers and then flapped her wings, so I'm gonna take that as a yes. She thinks this is garbage. She's shaking this book off.
Are you a writer? Have you finished a book, but now you don't know what to do? Because you know it needs to be edited, but you're not sure what steps to take next. How do you keep it from turning into a situation like Lightlark or the Zodiac Academy? Have you always wanted to say, yeah, well, my book is with my editor right now? Well, now you can, with me, because I'm a developmental editor. I'm the sort of editor who can help you figure out whether you've got plot holes, whether your characters are interesting and engaging, whether your story is moving at the right pace, and lots of other things. So go ahead and message me over on my Fiverr, links in the doobly-doo, and we'll help you figure out how to make your story the best it can be.
Hey, we're back. I attempted to dye my hair blue, but the dye didn't really work all that well, so I'm gonna try another layer. But I'm feeling very blue today. Blue shirt, blue nails, a tinted blue hair, blue chair. I'm blue, dub and die. Also, I have this pillow that I designed, and you can find it on Redbubble. It has a ferret on it. My computer is being a butt again because it has Windows 10 on it, I believe, and it's so old it cannot update to Windows 11. So every time there is an update of any kind, it blue screen of deaths if I use the internet after it has done an update. So I have to go through and try to figure out what exactly from that update is making it lose its goddamn mind and hope that I can still have a working computer. And that's the computer I do all of my editing on, that's the computer I do all of my everything on. So, that's unfortunate. We don't really have money to replace my computer. I have some blue cream lipstick down here too, should I? No, because I want to keep drinking and it will get all over my teeth. I don't need blue teeth, I gotta draw the line somewhere. We are making good progress through this book, and if my computer wasn't being an absolute butthole, I might even start, editing some of these videos. But we are back, we are with Tory, who is the person I like slightly better. Again, not because they are a more interesting character, but simply because they are better written. Oof, this first sentence is just this is a first drafty kind of sentence, it reads so clunkily and just could be trimmed down and made to be so much more streamlined. Allow me to read it to you. An irritating kind of jingling noise called me from my sleep, and I pushed myself upright with a jerk of surprise as I frowned around at the unfamiliar surroundings. There's just a lot and many words that don't need to be there. If I came across this sentence in my own writing, here's how I might edit it. Instead of an irritating kind of jingling noise called me from my sleep, I would say, an irritating jingling called me from my sleep. And I pushed myself upright with a jerk. I might say something like, the irritating jingling called me from my sleep and I jerked upright as I frowned around in my unfamiliar surroundings. I would end the sentence with, and I sat upright with a jerk, period. I glanced around at my unfamiliar surroundings, something like that. Like, that's not perfect, but that is how I would go in and fix up and streamline this very wordy, very awkward sentence with just too much going on. We are back with Tori in her dorm room. She was up late chatting with her sister about how messed up this place is, except for the fact that neither of them are going to try to do anything about it, because it's not like they're the princesses or anything. Like, I hope these girls do get to become princesses so that they can lay the smackdown on this ridiculous school. You don't need this. The character says, "What the actual fuck?" I cursed. You don't need "I cursed." We can tell. You even italicized the word fuck. So we can tell that you cursed. Just skip that dialogue tag. We get reminded that she has long hair. These girls' hair is like really a feature that we want to remember. They have long hair and one of them has blue in her hair. But their hair is long and their hair is very important.
And then I'll brush and brush and brush and brush my hair.
We're just getting a very rambling, getting up and getting ready scene. There's nothing really to report. She's remembering little details about her previous life. I wouldn't necessarily say that this scene, the idea of this scene is bad, watching her get ready. But because she is such a blank slate of a character, like, I don't care about her. I don't care to know that she doesn't like the style of the flannel pajamas that the school gives her. Like, what does that give me? That gives me nothing. Who is she, like, as a person? I also learned that she's not a morning person. Cool, great, lots of people aren't morning people. Like, what makes you an interesting character? Nothing, except for I think you have blue hair? Or is that your sister? See, I don't know. I can't tell them apart. Also, rather than something like the plaid pajamas I wore were not to my taste, you could make that more dynamic. Just instead of the flat, bland, I didn't like this, you could say something like, as I passed the mirror, I flinched at the sight of myself in those disgusting flannel pajamas that the school gave me. Like, bring us into the character instead of just giving us like a list of how she's thinking and how she's feeling. Whenever you can, tie descriptions into the character or the character's actions, because that is going to be far more dynamic to read about, and it's going to cover two bases at once. So we're both following the character as they move about their room, and we're learning details about their surroundings, their clothing, their appearance, whatever, at the same time, instead of going back and forth between, like, I crossed to the mirror, I looked in the mirror, I hated these ugly flannel pajamas. You can do so much more with it if you combine all of those things. So you're taking up way less space on the page, and you're keeping it moving and keeping it dynamic. I know I say dynamic a lot, but I don't really have a better word to describe it. I know, I'm a writer. Oh my gosh. My ears are so loud today. I have tinnitus, fun fact. Pretty severe tinnitus, actually. And I've had it my whole life. But when the weather is changing, it gets louder. And we're about to get hit with like a cold front. And my ears are so loud today. Like, the pressure change does stuff to my ears. I don't know what a Bridget Jones special is. Underwear that was anything other than the Bridget Jones specials. Oh, is this referring to Bridget Jones's Diary? Which is, no teenager reading this book has watched Bridget Jones's Diary. Or read it. Like, I fully accept that I am old, that I, like, saw Bridget Jones's Diary when it was, like, new. I think when it came out on DVD, I didn't see it in theaters. So, like, yeah, nobody in the age range of people who are reading this book has seen Bridget Jones's Diary enough to recognize, like, maybe they've seen it, but are they going to recognize, ladies who wrote this, that you are referring to Bridget Jones's granny panties when you say the Bridget Jones special about underwear. Like, it took me way too long to figure that out, and I'm old.
Scary stomach holding in pants, very popular with grannies the world over.
Reading a lot about her underwear, and I'm like, why? Why are we doing this? Why do we need to know what color her underwear is? Why do we need to know what kind of bra she has? Yeah, she's in a magical school, a magic school. She's just learned that she has every power, and she's also surrounded by boys who want to harm her and her sister all day, every day. And she has been going on for 2 thick paragraphs, almost a page at this point, about her clothing tastes, how the underwear doesn't match her skin tone, how she can't wait to go to the mall. And I'm just like, what are we doing?
She needs to sort out her priorities.
She has just completely indoctrinated herself into like, I'm going to this school, this is normal, I am totally a princess, I'm learning magic, but my goodness, I hate the color of the underwear that they gave me. This is a problem I must solve. Also, we get reminded that the school provides them with makeup, and they've just given them like so much wonderful makeup. And I'm like, you're in a magic school, so maybe you can learn magic that like you can change your face and make you look however you want. But no, here at magic school, we still just use like eyeliner and foundation. Where is my magical contour? I don't even use contour in real life, but if I could use magic to do it, probably I would. Oh, finally, after 2 pages of nothing but her clothes and her makeup, she gets her horoscope for the day. I know I said I kind of liked the idea of these horoscopes when we got the first one, but I'm already over it. Also, I was thinking about it like, yeah, all these kids use Facebook, and when was this published? 2019. What were we doing? Were we on TikTok in 2019? I can't remember. TikTok both feels new and like it has always been. But like, pretty sure that teenagers and young adults were already done with Facebook by 2019. Like that's the old people app now. So I would love to see like the fairy version of TikTok or the fairy version of Snapchat, I guess. The kids are still using Snapchat. I never used Snapchat and had no desire to start. Let's keep up here if you're gonna write about like young adults. Let's at least know what their technology is in the time that this book was written. So she finds that while she was going through the initiation ritual that burned off all her clothes, somebody took a picture of her naked. And it's just sexual harassment all the way down in their comments. She curls her lip like twice in the same paragraph, in a mixture of disgust and outrage. Disgust and outrage, but like not enough outrage to actually try to leave this school. I know that I should not expect anything from this book, obviously. Obviously, we expect nothing from this book, and that is what we are getting. But, you know, I'm interested by books that take place in fairyland and deal with the fae on a deeper level because they are not human and they would not act like humans. The problem is that most authors translate that into they are just mean and have like no other society built up except for that. Like, I like the idea of a fae that have very different emotions, very different emotional systems because they are not human. But just having them be assholes is not a whole culture. That doesn't make a whole culture. That's why I had some problems with like The Cruel Prince. When I read it, I was like, okay, I keep hearing how like the fae are so cool and alien, and it just turned out that they were dicks. And I'm like, well, they're just pretty people who are dicks, and that's not what I want from this cool concept that people could do so much with about building this entire culture that is like adjacent to humans but not human. And what societal things have they built because they maybe don't feel emotions the way that humans do? A lot of times fairies can't lie, and what kind of social constructs would come up around that? And social norms and niceties and the way that people talk and interact. And no, there's none of that. There's no deeper thought. It's just everyone's assholes. And this book has taken it to an even shallower level where they're not even gonna say everyone here is assholes because they're fae and the rules are different. They're not even saying that. Like, these girls aren't even like, hey, this is wrong and you shouldn't treat me this way, and then having somebody else be like, actually, that's the way the Fae are. The girls aren't even saying that. They just accept this. Oh, we've got so many different species here. All of them do all of them have the same culture? Do all of them have the same values? Who cares? Obviously, who cares? That is not something that this book is interested in, but it's something to think about for us as we are writing our own book, and we are hopefully building deep, interesting cultures. Oh goodness. Now we have house points. So I guess in Fae land, it is not appropriate to post nude photos of people because an admin takes it down. I don't know like what's allowed exactly on Fairy Facebook, but an admin takes it down and says that Milton Hubert, who posted it, has been docked 10 house points. And we've never heard of the house points before, like that's a thing. What do they do? Who fucking cares? But Harry Potter had house points, so that's probably why those are there. Here's another time when you can get rid of was and make this sentence feel more present. No one noticed me as I arrived, and my gaze was snagged by a large group in the center of the room. No one noticed me as I arrived, but my gaze snagged on a large group at the center of the room. She sees that the person at the center of it all is Darius, of course. We have to have an interlude about how attractive he looks, and then some random girl who does not matter sits on his lap and starts making out with him so that our main character can be like grossed out by that. So she sees the guy who posted her photo, and of course he's like a big caveman jock with a unibrow. He can't be handsome. I don't know why. And she casts water at him and sends him crashing against the wall. But I thought that she was going to go after his device, because it said a couple of times that she's like, oh, his fairy tablet is right next to him, and I'm like, oh, she's gonna cast water on it and ruin it as punishment for him sharing her picture. But instead she just blasts him with water, and I'm like, girl, come on. Now, I kind of approve if these girls are not going to try to do anything that would make sense in a normal human context, because they have completely bought into this world in which they are trapped. But I'm on board then if she's going to try to follow the rules of this world and get vengeance, you know, because that seems to be what you do here. But of course she's doing this in front of the abusive hot guy, so like this isn't going to end well for her. And then she just grabs his tablet and tells him to delete the picture, and I'm like, girl, delete it yourself. Like, I'm assuming you have used technology before. She's holding him against the wall with water. Again, I would just douse his tablet, but maybe it's magical and water wouldn't do anything to it. Then she finally does. Okay, she finally does. She uses his thumb to unlock his tablet, and she goes into his photos and deletes the ones that he took, even though they're probably online now, so he can just get them back. But whatever. I personally would have just ruined his device or fucked him up in some other way. Find out which room is his and flood it. Like, there are no rules here. So go all out. Don't just like pin him against the wall and make him delete the photos. Also, she is like kicking his ass. Like, she held him against the wall with water, and when she let him go, he looked like he was going to attack her, so next she used vines and pinned him. And, like, if she's so powerful and good with her magic, why are either of these girls always getting their asses handed to them? She's just, like, casually kicking his ass, and because we know so little about the magic or how it's used, we, the reader, are left wondering, why doesn't she do this every time when guys are harassing her? Her amazing line, her badass line that she says to him is, "You need to learn to respect women." You got him. Yeah, I don't know why she thought that this was a good revenge. So she starts to walk off, you know, all badass, and then Darius, the hot guy, is like, he sent me copies, I have copies, probably everyone has copies. So just deleting the photos in his tablet does nothing, girl, like, ruin his life. She says that she might have taken down Milton, but she knew full well that without the element of surprise, I couldn't have done it. How do you know that? How do you know? That definitely just seems like the author hand-waving away why this character won't be able to defend herself later. What is a trout pout? What is a trout pout? Like, in reference to a photograph. I'm assuming it's something like duck lips. I've never heard of it. Also, our hero goes straight from telling a guy that he needs to learn to respect women to body shaming another woman. So, that's great. I love to see that you are demanding respect from one person, but you do not have to follow the same rules. Like, I get that this girl was mean to you online, but like, you just told somebody to respect women, and the method that you were going to use to come after this girl, there's so many other insults that you could use besides referring to her looks. Like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to resort to that. She just goes on to both out loud and in her head shame this other woman. And I get it. This other girl did participate in the bullying online of our main character. But our main character has been physically bullied in person by one of the people in this room, and she's not gonna insult him, now is she? I should have women hating women on my list, actually. That should be on the next bingo card. Help me remember that. So now, in between just shaming this other woman, our hero Tory is trying to pretend to Darius like she doesn't care if he has her photos, which would be a lot more meaningful if you hadn't marched down here and used your magic on a guy to get him to delete those photos. Like, you cannot convince me now that you don't care if someone has your photos after that display. I mean, it's working for her because it has to, because, oh, she's got to get one over on this guy, but it doesn't make any sense. And then she leaves feeling like, yeah, I got the last word by telling that guy that he can keep the photos of me. I totally don't care, even though I just made a huge display of caring very much. Oh, Diego is back.
Hola, Diego.
Wonderful. I'm sure he's going to be a great side character that we can all get to know and love. But the girls' very own private cult have found them again, and I'm sure we're gonna hear about how terrible it is that these people are being nice to them, unlike everyone else at this school. Also, Geraldine, who is the leader of this group, is frequently described as tall. So we have somebody who is very clearly considered to be cringe, considered to be uncool, and her basically one characteristic is that she's tall, which is great. It's this book's shorthand for us to understand that Geraldine, along with her name being Geraldine, is to not be considered attractive and not be considered a threat to either of our main girls getting with any of the hot boys. So one of the vampire guys, again, I have no idea what these guys, I don't remember what any of these guys look like, but Caleb, I guess, is one of the vampire ones, and he comes up behind her, presumably to drink some of her blood for this morning, or drink some of her magic, or whatever they drink. And she just scowls at him. So that'll show him. Also, of course, she's a little bit turned on by him, touching her neck, so, in case you were wondering. She decides not to even bother trying to fight him because she's certain that she will just lose. This chapter is so long and, nothing is happening. Again, we just got shade towards Geraldine. Luckily for us, she'd forgotten something in her room, so we wouldn't have to walk with her.
You are a mean girl.
Why are we rooting for these main characters? Why are we rooting for anyone? So next they go to their water magic class, and the teacher is a guy, so you can guess already what his body type is like, but also he's like a siren or whatever. He's got scales, but he's hot and he's wearing a Speedo. His name is Professor Washer. We did not even try. We did not even try. That is the kind of name you give a character as a placeholder, not what you leave as their name in the book. So this teacher seems to be nice, and he asks them how they're coping, and Darcy says, it's so much to take in. We've been ripped out of the life we've known, and we're struggling to figure out a place to fit in. And on top of that, we have to deal with the four of them. And it's great. This is one of the first and only times that you've really acknowledged all of the shit that's going on. When we are with these characters, when we are in their heads, we barely get any acknowledgement of this. So this mostly naked teacher gives the girls a big hug, but they feel comforted by it, so it's okay. At this point, whatever. Okay, of course they couldn't have one nice teacher. It turns out he wasn't nice. He was just draining their emotions, because that's, I guess, what sirens do. I mean, it was weird that they were hugging a mostly naked adult man, but at the same time, I was really hoping that they would get, one nice teacher. Just one. And the girls, upon learning that this guy can drain their magic through their emotions by hugging them, their response is, well, that's screwed up, Darcy muttered. They have to pass through a waterfall to get to their class, and they decide to just run through it because for some reason their magic isn't working. Potentially because they just got, once again had their magic drained by some rando. But they hold hands and run through, and I'm sure it's going to make their, shirts all see-through. Now the house points are a thing. Suddenly, they were not before. Halfway through the book, they are now a thing. And the teacher takes away points from them for not using their magic to get through the waterfall. Yep, their shirts are transparent, of course. The girls have to go get bathing suits on, and there's a locker room, and I'm not really sure, what even is the structure that they are in. They had to pass through a waterfall, so I was thinking maybe a cave, but I guess there's locker rooms inside. Wherever this is, we're given no description of it. It doesn't matter. They're mostly just worried about the teacher being a perv. But then they put on bathing suits, and of course, the bathing suits just have plunging necklines so they can show off their cleavage. Oh, and of course, their asses. So they get out of the changing room, and essentially it's like a cave water park with all kinds of weird water features like slides and tunnels and everything. But of course, Tory's not paying attention. The teacher starts the class and immediately we wander off. We are not interested in learning anything about the magic in this story. She looks instead across to where someone is climbing a rock wall, a actual wall of rock. And of course it's going to be two of the hot boys, because who else would it be? They get to the top of the rock wall and start wrestling with each other in their skimpy bathing suits, because why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't the guys do that? Totally heterosexual feelings all over the place in this book. So she watches the hot boys for a while, and then it's time to get back to the class, but the chapter ends because we do not care about the magic in this magic school. It's just, what a waste of a premise. I get it, this book is not trying to be anything except for hot boy bully romance, but what a waste of a really potentially intriguing premise of fairyland heist potentially, of a fairyland school, of all of these different species and cultures you could be getting to know. Nah, we don't want any of that. I'm going to stop reading for a little while because I'm hungry, so I'm going to go find something for lunch, and I might come back, I might not. I've got some critiques to do today for somebody else's manuscript, so I'll do that for a little while too. Hopefully I'm still doing that by the time these videos come out. Hopefully I have been able to make that my career, or at least part of my career, but we'll see what the future holds. Anyway, I'm gonna go eat lunch.
A good boy, a bad boy, a good bad boy, a half good, half bad, half boy.
Actually, I don't need any of that because I have patrons. Patrons like Valkyrie, Veda, Ingrid, Roma, Pansing Pony, Julius the Nice Dragon, Haley, Sam, Kiara, Kogi Karo, Mooney, Maria, Kirsten, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Lauren, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, KJ, Lafone, Amanda, Celia, Neon, NVM, Alyssa, Deborah, Afra, Melissa, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Marween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Ray, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, and Sarah. With patrons like that, why would I need anything else?
Hey, that's Hydro Pump! Pikachu Electro Ball!